Are you a woman out there, 40 plus? I'm not talking about the she and the her and a woman, because my guest today, wow, is she a woman of empowerment to help you? And I so connected with her. Dr. Tayo is with me today. And this woman is incredible with helping you bridge that gap and becoming the girl, not the girl and hiding behind closed doors, to get your voice out, to get your message out and step into your personal power, your confidence, and the feminine and masculine energy so you can make a difference in millions of lives. So I want to welcome, I'm going to bring on my guest right now, Dr. Tayo. Thank you for joining me today. Grateful to have you here. And I have to ask you, first of all, I mean, I just am getting to know you. I know we're working together in creating your book to become a #1 international best-selling author, right? And yeah, I'm just so grateful to have met you and that you reached out. And we had a deep, deep conversation last week. And I love what you're about in helping women. So share a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? And yeah, who do you serve?
Hi, Crystal. Thank you so much for the invitation to be interviewed. It's a real great honor. I'm a physician, been for quite a few decades, but I went into the radiology subspecialty or specialty. And during all that time, what occurred to me was that traditional medicine, or conventional medicine, as you like, is very good at acute diseases. You have an appendix, you have surgery, you have certain things, acute situations. We can do something
right
that would usually help out. But when it came to the more chronic diseases, which is now called lifestyle diseases, we did not quite measure up. It just kept on grumbling along. And so that was it started as a fascination. This was an observation, turned into a fascination. And I said, so what is the answer? Because the answer you have to look back at the origin and then try and get something. And I realized that we had to embody the whole person.
Yes.
Embody all the methods we could think of to help, which includes, alternative medicine, whatever would work, homeopathy, herbs, and just thinking out there, energy medicine, but what would help in getting you to optimal health. And optimal health is longevity. If there's one thing this pandemic has taught us, is that our health is the absolute foundation for anything you can do going forward.
Everything.
It's everything.
It is. And I can't agree with you more. And you're up and share how long you've been a doctor, for how many years, and kind of dive in a little bit about that and why you've kind of chosen this journey with transformation for women, especially.
Yes.
We were kind of diving into menopause, right? And we kind of shifted your energy and your book, and share with our audience a little bit about that, your expertise.
Well, it's mostly born from experience, believe it or not, because even though I was a physician, like all women out there, I didn't know a lot about it. And it was literally a flash.
Yes.
Flash, if you like. And it went like, oh my God. I had to start going through the brain bank, going through everything and saying, this must mean I'm heading towards menopause. My hormones are changing. What do I do about it? Amongst other things, I didn't sleep for 9 months. I had having that full on, and you are trying to get some help as well as break through all the things that are out there about menopausal women. Working full time, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I must be able to keep up my work. I can't fall under otherwise. You know what happens with a lot of menopausal women? They become stressed. Their feeling of ability and confidence takes a knock because they are just, if they're unlucky enough to have brain fog, to have weight gain, All these things are visible changes, unfortunately. And so everybody looking around can tell, have you seen the
Yeah,
woman?
I'm raising my hand because I've gone through this with, and this is why we connect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you see the woman who's out there who's taking, fanning with everything, or who has virtually no clothes on when the rest of the room is cold. And
Right.
you can tell. And for her, it's survival because it's embarrassing, but because there's no deep understanding of
Mhm.
what is going on and how to help her. And a lot of times they would go to their doctors
Yeah.
and be told that, there's nothing wrong with you. Suck it up, buttercup, and maybe hand them some anxiety pills.
Right.
There was something
Yeah,
wrong
they're
with you.
so quickly to sign up. And that's what happened to me. And I'm like, no way, not
Yes.
taking them.
Yeah.
You know what? And that's where I'm like, I'm a firm believer in naturopath and that, and we talked about too, Dr. Tayo, that about the women and the men and dating at
Mm.
40s plus, okay? And
Mm.
for women, I mean, I'm going to be 59 in a couple weeks. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm 59. Guess what? I'm stepped in. We need to step into our power, right? And
Absolutely.
and live from our authentic self. But this is a huge transition for women. And
Yes.
this goes very, very deep because I know I'm going to have you on many, many interviews because your specialty and you in the bestseller method. And I know we have a couple people. Charmaine, thank you for being here with us. Hello from Sydney, Charmaine. What time is it there now? I would love for you guys to like, love, comment, do hashtag replay. Please share this interview with the women you know that are 40 plus and above out there in the world, because this woman and myself have really connected, and we have a powerful message, right, to get out in the
Yes,
world.
indeed. Indeed. Because
Yes.
what a lot of people don't actually, and what we're not aware of really, is that just as we went into puberty, and that was the childbearing years, this is signaling the end of those childbearing years, but it is not in fact, it is the beginning of a vibrant life. There are no more periods. You remember them?
Yeah, I remember that years ago.
You don't have you can no longer get pregnant, so you don't have that to worry about.
Right.
And you now have an experience which you've gathered over that period, and the freedom it brings to you to grow into the true womanhood and the true powerful person. But when people are a bit anxious and then society looks at you, you may miss the opportunity to be really, really as powerful as you should be. And so I am very passionate about using all the tools you have and growing into your power.
Yes. And this is your greatest. I know you have the ability to take women that are shut down from their hormones, their life, and what they're experiencing and going through a major transition and the result. So share a little bit about that. How your ability with your expertise to take people that are women in
Yes.
particular that are stuck in that mindset, not only mindset, but their body, their mission, their purpose, and why they are even here. And then it goes well beyond that, for the dating women and the single women out there. This is where you and I relate. So share a little bit about that, your ability, and maybe an example of, some of your
Yeah.
clients and where your expertise has really shined and you knew, I've got to write a book, I got to get this message out to the world.
Yes. I'd say getting that awareness out there was to basically say, let's get you aware of what's going on. So you don't need a physician. You don't need to go in to see a doctor most of the time to diagnose menopause. Why? Because your hormones during that period are going up and down. Now, if
Yeah.
you happen to go to the doctor's office when it is up and normal, they'll tell you it's normal. And I have seen that with some of my clients and seen that they've can't sleep, hot flashes, and the doctor says, hormone test says you're normal. And I said, you are in menopause. You've got hot flashes, your periods are irregular, you cannot sleep well, you are in menopause. Now, let's find a solution instead of, and this woman was suffering for the past year.
Right.
and a doctor is saying you're not in menopause.
Unbelievable.
And down and up and down and trends lower. So, but it's not a straight line like anything in life. It trends lower until it
Right.
gets to actual menopause is a date in time, which is 12 months after your last period. So you only
Right.
know it when you're looking backwards. You can't predict going forward. Because if during the period you have one period, 6 months, then you have to count your
Start from that point
and move
for the
on
next year.
for the next year.
See, I wish I would have known that back in the day, God, 8 years ago.
Yeah, for a lot of people. And so they're going to Dr. Google. They don't know what to look at. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what to do. And so you have this. And one powerful thing I know during this journey, if you can take your most, shall we say, your most bothersome symptom, and those usually bothersome symptoms are enough to affect your productivity, to affect your daily functioning. And if you can take those things and address them, whether it is with a spot of HRT, whether it is with, nutrition, exercise, sleep hygiene, I'm looking at the whole person and
Right.
what is it you need. And when you solve these problems, what are the other things that will make you come out at the end of it as an even more powerful person than you? So you don't have to worry about your health. You can say, I personally am at the best I have ever been.
Yeah.
And
And
that
in the best shape you've been. And yeah. And share with us a little bit about your secret and how you do that. I would love for you to share with my audience. You transitioning and going through this, and obviously you found and you were driven toward this, right?
Yes.
To help inspire other women.
Yes.
Share a little bit about that.
Like I said, the first thing for me and for a lot of women was sleep.
Yes.
When I had that flash, and it wasn't really a hot flush, it was like just a feeling going through my body. It wasn't hot, it was just a feeling going through my body. So when I looked back, I realized that my slight insomnia, and I used to sleep very well, by the way, my slight insomnia and I was feeling warm was actually 2 years before. I just didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
So what became important, and then later on, the night sweat, the night sweats came.
Right.
on.
Right.
Put on the
Waking
fan.
up dripping in sweat.
You put on the fan, you put on the air conditioning, you think you can't get warm. So this
Right.
is what I tell ladies with partners. Hey, if your partner is feeling cold, tell them to get a blanket, wrap up warm, but you need your sleep. You need your sleep.
I love it. I love it.
Because
if you want to get a blanket, get warm, because I'm like a hot oven and sweating, and who wants to be?
Yeah, it's
That's hysterical.
It really is easier to keep warm with a blanket and other things than it is to, cool down. It just is. And in the middle of winter, what are you going to do? Even if you open the windows and if you live in the city and there's noise, etc., but you need a quiet room. So I was focused on that sleep hygiene, as it's generally called.
Right.
But just getting sleep habits that will get me such that I got a full, because the process of sleep is one of your superpowers.
It is.
It's refreshing and regenerative. That is when you get your brain, your short-term memory into your long-term memory.
Right.
Which
wants me to dive into 3 tips that you can share with our audience here on how do you get that, how do you get there for the sleep when you're going through these, what is your top 3 tips you can share with our audience on this and going through this journey? And it's different for every woman, right? We got to make that.
It is
definitely put that out there, because everyone's different. You're going through premenopause, menopause, and then after, post, and here, this is a very serious subject for women, and being shut down, and especially as single women in dating, right? You and I have chatted about this. So I would love for you to share a little bit about, 3 tips that you can share with our audience to help them through the process wherever they're at.
Yes. I'll take from the different areas, because like we were dealing with the whole body, but I'll start as we had started talking about sleep. And I said, the process of sleep is such that you want refreshing sleep, you want deep sleep, which is where you have your, cellular restoration and where you have your short-term memory going into long-term memory, so you don't wake up with big brain fog. So while you do all those things, what would you do? There are several things to do, but what I would suggest, the first and easiest thing, look at various apps on the market where you can measure your deep sleep, your REM sleep.
Oh, okay.
Is REM sleep happens at the end of the 5 cycles of sleep, and it is short to start off with, and it is longer as you go on with sleep. Now, if you have 4 hours sleep, your deep sleep component may be only 30 minutes. But if you have 7 hours sleep, you may have a deep sleep component that at the end is 1.5 hours, or let's say not exactly 1.5 hours, but maybe an hour. So
right.
the aggregation gives you, so your sleep, the benefits of sleep from deep sleep comes at the end of 7 hours.
At the very end of your sleep.
It's end. So you get an app. There are lots of them around. I'm not going to recommend any. There are lots of them around where you wear them when you're asleep. I'm not a great fan of electronics when you're sleeping, but for the purposes of finding out how much sleep you're getting, there are all kinds of devices and apps where you can measure the amount of deep sleep you're getting, when they're tossing and turning, how much you're waking up at night if you're going through the cycles. And that will tell you what you need to modify, and you need to get those sleep in. And for most people, it is 7 to 8 hours. It could be, each cycle is 90 minutes, and it could be shorter than 90 minutes for some. I'm shorter than 90 minutes. I know that from years. And it could be slightly longer than 90 minutes. But you have ideally 5 sleep cycles per night. That will take you to 7.
So it's 5 cycles being in that REM. Okay. Is that ideal? Is that the ideal?
It's 5 cycles of which there are, 5 cycles of which there are 5 steps.
Okay.
So within that step, one of them is your REM sleep component, is your deep sleep, when you're dreaming, rapid eye movement, etc. It's essentially paralyzed. Your body is just, refreshing itself.
Yes.
While you go through that, it only comes at the end. So you have number 1, number 2, number 3, the light sleep, deep sleep, and this comes at the very end.
Okay.
And it starts with your first 90-minute cycle. It may be about 15, 20 minutes. By the time you get to your 5th cycle, that REM sleep may occupy as much as 40 minutes or more.
Wow.
So you only get that effect towards the end of your 7.5 hours, not at the beginning.
Okay.
So if you could get that app and it tells you, then that would, you see it and you say, oh my God, so that's the reason I can't really sleep. Let's figure out the other steps towards getting better sleep. How do I get better sleep? There's a whole thing around getting sleep hygiene. There's a whole lot you need to do. But that is one of the easiest, almost non-costly. If you haven't watched almost all of them now, Apple Watches.
Yeah, and your phone, right?
And your phone to track it. Just get an app, track it, and that will give you a good indication. Okay, if I'm not sleeping,
I love that.
Fine. Where do we start? What do I do next? So that's for sleep.
Right.
The other thing a lot of women going through hormone changes, as you know, complain about is putting on weight. No matter what they do, they're putting on weight.
Midsection, it all goes to my belly, my
belly fat. Belly fat, and going onto your hips and thighs, and you're thinking, but it was effortless before, and I'm eating the same thing. Well, our habits have now changed. Our body has now changed. How our body metabolizes has now changed.
Right.
Hormone changes have also affected the way we store fat. So the first thing I would say is, before we go into the real mechanics of, foods, is to say, eat real food.
Yes.
Process.
And find real food for the audience, because especially here in America.
Yes.
Me being a rep at Whole Foods, Vitamin Cottage, and Sprouts, for years. I mean, even some of the, behind the scenes, I shouldn't say this, but there was chemicals still being on veggies, and I'm not going to name who.
Yes.
But behind the scenes, by working in those markets and being a rep for various companies, I learned a lot about this, Dr. Taya. It's mind-blowing to me.
It is. And, there's a whole food industrial complex which wants to keep you eating things that are honestly bad for you.
Yeah.
They're loaded with 3 main things: fat, sugar, salt.
Yeah.
But it's not, when I say fat, I mean the wrong types of fats, because fats are actually good for you. Your brain is made up of, 60% fat. So you want to be able to have the right types of fat. Otherwise, you'll be in energy, whatever. So you need the right type of fats. You do not need simple sugars, and not at the
No.
rates we eat them. And you also do not need massive amounts of salt. You need salt, but you don't need the massive amounts that are pumped.
Right.
They treat us like guinea pigs.
And that's my problem, the salt. I can do away with dessert, but I love the salt.
That if you're taking, and I would go slightly against the grain in that, saying that the salt on its own, if you're taking it and you're hydrated enough, is not a problem. You actually need the electrolytes. That's what sets the enzymatic process going. So don't look at salt as it's the way it's combined in food. And the whole point of combining it in the way they do it is to suck you in, is to get you addicted. People do not help themselves. It is not their fault. It's planned addiction.
Oh my God, you've just hit the nail on the head for me, because seriously, it's the addiction of food, and this is why they advertise. This is all advertising. It's all, and then our body starts to crave it. And you're so right. Real food, real taking care of ourselves from the inside out, so important. As one of your tips, I'm a firm believer in that. And I know going up and down our cycles during 10 years, I've, pre and middle and then post, and you guys, it's a roller coaster, and we've got to take care of ourselves. That's why I was so grateful to hear your knowledge and feedback and bringing it to our audience. So so sleep, real food, and what's your third tip?
I'm going to do real food, and if you can, make as much as you can organic, particularly the things where you eat the skin.
Okay.
They go hand in hand, because you were talking about pesticides. They go in hand.
They do.
Yeah. And if you can't eat it, go and look for the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 on Google. You'll see what foods you should eat organic and what foods you can get away without eating organic.
Is there a way to and look at, or I know there is with organic. What are your thoughts on all of that? Organic versus obviously just shopping at a regular supermarket.
Wherever you shop, like I said, if you want to shop at a regular supermarket, if they have organics, go for the organics. But then if you don't want to buy it because it's too expensive, everything organic, then go for the ones which are usually local. These days, a lot of local farmers are aware. They don't use pesticides. They don't get organic certified because it's too expensive, but they are effectively organic.
Yes.
Or they're grown in greenhouses. Those ones will, but if it's a leafy vegetable or thing with skins and that you eat, berries and tomatoes, please buy organic, because the effects of the pesticides they spray on it,
oh my God,
it makes your risk even higher.
And I noticed with tomatoes, let me jump in with inflammation, and a lot, I've heard a lot of study about tomatoes, and I'm kind of up and down, but I love tomatoes. I love my basil, and yes, my buffalo mozzarella with my fresh basil. And olive oil and vinegar. Yes. I love that. And we crave different foods, right? When we're going through these cycles. Yes. And I have to give a shout out to Germain. Wow, you went to Weight Watchers and lost
amazing
20 unbelievable.
Yeah.
And have you maintained that, Germain? I'm curious to know. Have you maintained that, and how long ago was that? I mean, this is a very deep topic.
Yes.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother on that alone.
I mean, you know what happened with The Greatest Losers when they went back to them? They all went back and then added some.
Right.
Because the very quick in tends to also be quick out.
Right. These fads and the diets and like paleo and keto and oh my gosh, it's just living a healthy life. For me, I don't measure my food. I'm sorry. If I have to measure my food, I'm like, no, it's not for me. No. I'm not going to sit here and measure my food. And, we all know our own bodies too. That's another thing. We know our bodies. We know what we need, what we don't need. And we know if we fall off,
Yes.
Yes, the
But
bandwagon.
we shouldn't
So
beat ourselves up too much about it. Like I said,
yes,
it's planned addiction. We should not beat ourselves. We just get up and start it again. But also, I encourage people start slowly. If you
yes,
start very fast, and you lose massive amounts of weight while you're doing it, the tendency to slip back and then some, because it's not sustainable. You want a
no,
sustainable plan. You want to stay that way.
it becomes a lifestyle, it becomes your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big time.
Absolutely.
This is where I love talking to you about all of this because of my background and where I've come from. Share, do you, and another tip, obviously sleep, real food,
Okay.
and then
And the other
what's
tip
your
is
third tip?
going to be based on productivity, because we're talking of women and we're talking of getting them through the day.
Yes.
And we're talking of really, how do you get as much as you can without losing yourself in the day? And I'm calling it N1T, number one task. So the day before you give up, if you like, have a productivity app or journal. I use one system called Simpleology, but it allows me to say, amongst other things, what do I want to do? What's important? What advances me? But what is the single most important task? What's my number one task for the next day? And once you've got that number one task, remember the 80-20 rule?
Yes.
That you have conquered the day. So you've conquered it, then you start getting on. We have a comment about from Germain.
Yes, Charmaine. She
Yes.
started 2 years ago as her son was getting married and lost 10, is it kg?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And then second son was getting married, lost another 10, kept it off, but trying to keep it going on. Love this. Charmaine, thank you for sharing that. And kudos to you. You've learned to, obviously, you know your body. And oh my gosh, I know you there, you're in Australia, I believe. You're on major lockdown too. How is it with your food and everything there? Let us know. Kudos to you. This is awesome, right?
What I'd also like to point out with Charmaine, which is wonderful, when you have a strong reason to do something, you tend to get results. And she is just an exemplar of that. She's got a reason. Her son was getting married. She wanted to look good. Who doesn't want to look good? Please talk to me.
Hello. We all do. We all want to live a vibrant vitality and live in our vitality and live. And, it's, to me, age is a mindset. I mean, my birthday is in a couple weeks.
Yes.
And it's all a mindset too. It's a mindset, but it's what we are putting in our mouths. It's what we're putting in our minds, right?
Yes.
And you're so spot on with all of this.
Yes.
I love it.
We have our motivation. And if you have a strong enough motivation, you see almost every bride who loses weight.
Yeah. We do. Yeah.
Loses weight and they get married and life happens and they put it back on.
And babies happen and we put it and we can't get that off. And then we start to diminish ourselves and then, it becomes a vicious cycle. That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. So, so there's so much I could talk about, but as you said, I'll go back to the, number one task that you have to do for the day. If you can plan your food, have that one so that it gives you a sense of accomplishment once you've got it done. You've got it out of the way. So the others may be important, but not as important as that number one task. And having a way of prioritizing what is important will do the tasks that are important. The ones that are not important fall by the wayside, and you'll end up with more time to do the things you want to do.
Exactly.
Pleasure, the things, spending some more time with your family, going to have a habit, going to travel. You will, instead of working all hours because you just have an up and down schedule and you're just grasping at whatever is put in front of you and doing it. Have an intention to what your day is going to look like. Get the important things prioritized first. Your most important task, get that done, then keep on proceeding as the most important thing. And guess what? You will end up not having to work overnight, not having to stay late at work,
right?
To have coffee at 3 p.m. just to keep your eyelids open.
I love this. Yeah.
So those are, the primary ones. Like I said, I could go on and on and on, but
Oh, I know we could. We could go on for hours about this, and I'm so grateful to have Germain. Thank you. And I don't know who this person is, but I will reach out to you. So I would love for you to share a few examples of recent success in helping women that you've worked with, Dr. Kaya.
Yes,
Yeah, do you have a few examples to share with our audience?
Yes, and it basically, I'll share the sleep example one with you. Basically, I would work with women who are, powerful, busy, as we use the word, high achievers, productive, and who somehow are beginning to feel a bit overwhelmed because
Right.
there's so much to do and they're wondering there are not enough hours in the day, and how do they get through it. The thing is that when you have your health, you have a bit more energy and you're productive and you can go through. So like I said, I started with sleep. Sleep, because that was the most important, and what I found was the bedrock probably to everything else in the body.
Right.
So,
Right.
I started with this professional, and it was, a discussion, find out what the habits are, and the fact that sleep was a major issue, enough that considering taking leave from work, the process of not being able to sleep was that bothersome, and decided not to take it because, let's face it, our health from that point of view, especially like menopause, is not on the discussion table. And if you do it as a professional, you're seen as weak.
Yes.
Seen as not. And this
is a big subject, and I'm so glad you brought this up.
Yeah. So it's seen as weak, and you don't want to appear as weak, and yet you want a good career. But there is no latitude for the fact that this is not something. This is a natural process. Menopause is natural. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
Right.
So, and don't let anybody diminish you because you're having. If you had, the flu or cancer, I'm supposed to put that phone off. Sorry.
It's all right. No worries.
No. So anyway. So with all of that, you do have to realize that with her, she was caught in a trap almost.
Right.
To work, I have a high profile career and profession. I want to be seen as being a competent and, really effective contributor to the team. And yet I'm hardly sleeping. I am really not feeling great.
Yeah.
So we had some sessions, not that many, believe it or not. We had a nice session, and we'd kind of like continue a few. Hey, what's going on? How have you done the things I asked you to do? And it turned out she was on sleep meds.
Oh, wow.
Within 5 days, she had stopped the sleep meds.
Wow.
This is a chronic sleep med user.
Okay.
And, because she was doing certain things and she was feeling more comfortable, what we do is reframe, get some new habits put in, install for some of the old habits you had. And within 5 days, she felt comfortable enough. And you do it in a comfortable manner. You don't just push things at people. That doesn't work. I like baby steps, but effective baby steps.
Yes.
Effective baby steps. Going full tilt out doesn't tend to yield.
It doesn't happen. Yeah. It is baby steps. I agree.
Baby steps. And if there is, like we said, if there is a real reason, which is for a lot of women, their work, their careers, their businesses, to keep that fire energy going. And 5 days, she says, oh, guess what? I tried it. We did it over a weekend. So that whether if she, the sleeping tablets, and she woke up and she was feeling, out of sorts, it wouldn't matter that much over the weekend.
Right.
So we tried it over the weekend. And she says, oh my God. She says, I was able to do it. Now, it was an ongoing process because a few days later, she says, oh, I was feeling stressed and I felt that it was a work day.
Yeah.
And I needed to go back. But it was a gradual tailing process, just like it, but she came off in 5 days. That for me was like, okay, this is what
yes.
The approach.
And progression. And you know what? You just get back on the horse. It's just like, you got to get back on, and it's consistency, persistency, taking care of yourself and making it your priority for us as women, because a lot of people out there, I mean, some women don't are not affected by this, but many of my friends are. I would say almost 100% of my friends have got going through the
Yeah.
cycle and the hot flashes and where
Yeah.
do we go, and especially in society
Yes.
and with dating. And I love that quote, the quote that you sent me this week. And a grown woman should not have to masquerade as a girl in order to remain in the land of the living. And that so resonated with me. It's like the mask.
Yes.
When are we going to remove the mask
That's a
and
good one.
show
That's
our true
Crystal.
identity, our true feeling, and what we're going through to connect? Because I so want to connect, with the men and our business, our partners, and the people to lift us up. And
Yes.
I would love for you to talk a little bit about that and that quote and why it means so much to you and why it's so powerful.
Okay, that quote was by Germain Greer. She's a very strong female activist, British. She must be in her late 70s now. She's been at it
Okay.
for a long time. But one of the people who are in the forefront of female empowerment. And she wrote several books. I think this one came out of a book called The Climacteric. And the climacteric is basically the term for the whole process of perimenopause and after.
Yes.
The proper
Yes.
term, the proper medical term is climacteric, but nobody uses it. But anyway, why is it important? Because as you put on the mask, nobody sees you and your power doesn't come out and your true authentic self doesn't come out. And if you can take off that mask and show everybody who you are, guess the power it gives you. People think that they have to shield themselves and they have to pretend and they have to pretend to be, high functioning. They have to struggle underneath, paddling like a duck.
Right.
Do all these things and it's just like lipstick on a pig.
To be noticed, to be seen. We all as human beings want to be seen and we want to be heard.
Yes.
And
but yes, connection. When the connection is from us, from our essence,
yes,
it is an authentic connection. But if we have put a barrier in front of us because we're trying to, whatever it is we're trying to do, we're functioning, we're barely functioning or we're defunctioning, and therefore you have all these aids to try and, just prop you up, if you like.
Yeah.
It doesn't work because your true authentic self doesn't come out. And if your true authentic self comes out, whether you need help, whether you don't need help, there's always all manner of help out there to get you to where you want to be. Just say where you want to be, and there's all manner of natural, mostly processes. And sometimes, listen, if you had an appendix, you better go to the hospital to get it out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this conversation. We're going to close here in a bit. And I just wanted, Charmaine, it's good to know I've heard all kinds of rumors about Australia being shut down and locked down. And thank God the food shops are open and you're working from home. And baby are due. And I think we are still in lockdown. So I have to wait to meet them. Oh, your grandkids? Or, yeah. Oh my God, Charmaine. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
And, thank you, Facebook user. I don't know who you are. You've got to allow StreamYard, you guys. You got to click on that link so that I can see who you are. I want to recognize you. Get your voice out. Please, I will put in the link below in the comments. And let me ask you this, Dr. Tao. How do we find out more about you and how we can learn more from you? Do you have a website or a link that?
Website's not up yet because I'm developing the program. I've been so, there's been such a lot of requests and try and develop a program. But right now it's Facebook. So if you just go onto Facebook, you can find me under TAYO DEE. So I go under TAYO. There's also a private Facebook group for people who would really, really love to be in a protected atmosphere and where we share tips and tricks and whatever it is you want to do. And it's called Midlife Divas.
I love that. So you will need to put that in the comments below and we end this, you guys, because this doesn't stop here. I mean, not getting any younger, but you know what? It's all a mindset, right? And let's
It is.
get through this and step into our power, ladies, right?
It is. It is.
I would love for you, Dr. Tayo, to share with our audience any closing thoughts, any closing words for women out there that are 40 plus,
Yes.
going through this transition in their life, and they're feeling really stuck, struggling, and that nobody knows they exist
Yes.
and nobody cares because they don't understand, because we're living in our own bodies, and we're going through our own ups and downs through this transition, right? So I would love for you to close with some parting words for our audience.
Basically, we're getting older, but that does not mean that you have to be decrepit, that you have to be aging. You can do just about every other thing is you can optimize it. Every other thing. You don't have to put on weight. You don't have to have memory fog. You don't have to be, break your bones. There are things you can do. It is not inevitable. So there's a famous saying, getting old is, necessary. Get aging is optional.
Yes.
Aging is an option if you let it be an option.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So find out more, you guys. We will put it in the comments to connect with Dr. Tayo. And I want to thank everybody. And I am grateful for you for bringing this out and sharing your knowledge and expertise with the world. And I so look forward to interviewing you again, and especially for getting your book out and this transition that you're kind of going with your book as well. It's very powerful for women 40 and older. And I'm right there with you, sister. And we are your sisters in this journey, right? And we believe in you, and don't suffer, don't have sleep deprivation, and the weight gain. Yes, I've put on, oh my gosh, over the last year, I've lost a couple, but 8 pounds in the last year. And it's, you know what? And then we shut ourselves down, and it's all about that confidence that comes from within.
Yes.
And let's get our message out, you guys. I want so many women's voices to be heard. And this is a very near and dear topic to me. And this is why I'm so grateful you took the time out today to spend with me, Dr. Tayo. And we have many, many gifts we can give to our people out there. So keep watching. Go on there, click the link below, join our Facebook groups, go to crystal.click to find out more, to dive into my groups. And I look forward to seeing you again soon, Dr. Tayo. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Crystal. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be able to talk to you and other women.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day, great evening, or great day wherever you're at in the world. We'll see you soon.